I said in a recent video that it's pretty cut and dry what this Pokemon does. I think that with the right player taking this and having the right matchups and the right sets at a regional, this Pokemon could definitely win a regional. And here we are after the Stockholm Regional, and look who's the champion. So we had the Stockholm Regional Championship this last weekend, and Zamazenta is on top. And this was a team I'm pretty sure was at the last event. It's Zamazenta, Rillaboom, Moltres, Galar, Moltres, Chien-Pao, Pelipper, and Latios, which is just an all-around very spicy looking team. Let's go into the pace of it real quick. So the big thing is this actually is an Iron Defense Zamazenta. They dropped the Iron Defense for Wide Guard instead. And there's a lot of just really powerful components to this team, and the fact that Rillaboom has Choice Band is crazy. That is an absolutely absurd amount of damage, especially with Grassy Glide priority. Just being able to click that and just do tons of damage into the stuff is wild for Rillaboom. So really strong option there, especially next to the Chien-Pao. That's really cool. Pelipper obviously being another Wide Guard setter and also weather control option. Very cool stuff there. The Latios is just there. It's a Luster Purge, Draco Meteor, Icy Wind. Get a little bit of speed control. You can avoid any of the ground type weaknesses you might have for Zamazenta. Being able to swap in for that. Really interesting addition for this team here. And then the final thing is the Galarian Moltres with a different variation than what we normally see out of Galarian Moltres. This is running Terra Dark with Fiery Wrath, Foul Play, Tailwind, and Protect, and then has Black Glasses. So yes, you can get the Berserker proc, but you don't really need to because you're Terra Dark with Black Glasses and you can just do tons of damage. Really interesting team and really cool. And I like I said, I made that video recently and said it's going to take somebody that comes up with a little bit of spice and a little bit of decent play, and Zamazenta is going to win a tournament. And here we are. It's so crazy. And I think that Zamazenta balance is something that's going to just keep popping up. Like I said in that previous video, Zamazenta is a Pokemon that I feel like we've hit kind of the point. It runs Body Press, it runs another attack. Sometimes it runs Iron Defense, sometimes it runs Wide Guard, and then it just kind of does its thing. That is something that's not going to change for this Pokemon. It's going to continue doing that. It's just the Pokemon around it that are going to change. But again, it's just really strong. Like if we keep scrolling here, there's the exact same copy of that team. Let's see, Zamazenta balance, Zamazenta balance, Zamazenta balance, Zamazenta balance. It's just everywhere. It's just a really good team. So I think it's a Pokemon that's just going to keep popping up. I don't think that after this event, it's going to like be everywhere. I think people will play it. It'll be a respected archetype in the metagame, but I think people will start adapting and bringing other stuff to deal with that particular threat. As far as the other restricted Pokemon go, Miraidon actually still showing up in the top 8 here. Pretty standard stuff, very similar to what we saw win the Indianapolis regionals. We have more Ice Rider, no shock there. Ice Rider is still here. Terapagos is still here. There's a couple Shadow Riders in the top 15. But all in all, like there's not really a ton of change as far as what the top restricted Pokemon are in the metagame, because even at Indianapolis, despite the fact Miraidon won the whole event, Zamazenta was in the top 8. Zamazenta was in the top 8 as well as Terapagos, as well as Ice Rider. So not a ton of significant change out of this particular event. It's just kind of a development. It seems like there's a lot less hyper offense running around, which is pretty normal. As the format starts, you know, everybody's just trying to do as much damage as possible right off the rip, and as we get into like future events, everybody starts kind of getting more into the balance scenarios where they have those switch-ins, they have those options, rather than trying to just straight nuke somebody off the rip. They're able to, you know, kind of pivot and play around their Pokemon a bit more, versus the first event is very often just do as much damage as I possibly can, knock out as many Pokemon as I possibly can as quickly as I can, and then we'll see shifts in the format from there. Now, what I think I find most interesting about this winning team is the fact that there are 2 Wide Guards on here, which makes a lot of sense when you look at some of the top restricted Pokemon in the format. Going back over to the tournament results, Terapagos likes to Terrasilize, likes to spam Terra Starstorm. Ice Rider likes to spam Glacial Lance. So having 2 options to effectively deal with those 2 big restricted threats is massive, not to mention the other Pokemon that do also get powerful spread moves. Looking at Calyrex Shadow Rider, Kyogre, Groudon, like all those Pokemon are getting really powerful spread moves. which makes sense that now you have two options for dealing with that, and you're able to just kind of mitigate those spread move threats, allowing the rest of the team here, especially looking at things like the Rillaboom that can just do massive damage with Grassy Surge, Grassy Glide, or Wood Hammer. Very powerful option. Moltres also being another powerful option to just hit like Ice Rider, Shadow Rider, everything with the Fiery Wrath and just do a ton of damage. Really powerful option there as well. And I do like the amount of like flying slash levitate users on this team. It's kind of crazy. Like, you are so ground immune on this particular team. Rillaboom resists it. Zamazenta obviously doesn't like it, but you have Moltres, Latios, and Pelipper that can all deal with it very effectively. It's just kind of crazy. I think it's just a really interesting and well-crafted team. You have multiple options of speed control in the form of Icy Wind, Tailwind, and just good damage output from all of these Pokemon. Very, very interesting looking team, and I kind of hope I can find a rental for it because I'd like to try it out. But how does this impact the meta moving forward? Well, like I was talking about, Zamazenta and Pelipper being such a good combination, both having access to Wide Guard, having two Wide Guards on the same team, probably leads to a decline in some usage on things like Terapagos. You probably see some Terapagos fall off. You probably see maybe a little bit of Ice Rider fall off. Ice Rider still incredibly popular, incredibly powerful. But you may see some Ice Rider fall off, mainly because of the fact that, you know, it sucks having to click high horsepower. if you want to click the Glacial Lance, it's going to do a lot of damage. Or if you want to do Terapagos, and you're already Terastallized and they have Wide Guard, you're locked in, you know, maybe you're running choice specs. It's a problem. I could definitely see these two falling off a little bit. I still think that these two are very good and they're going to be very popular in the format. But I think things like Miraidon will see a little bit of a spike. Miraidon remains relatively unaffected by the Zamazenta stuff. Just doesn't really care a whole lot. It just, yeah, because of the fact that, you know, everything Miraidon has is single target and it just does a ton of damage. The only thing you have to worry about is like Rillabooms. So I think Miraidon still becomes higher and higher usage as time goes on. It doesn't seem like it got quite the spike we were all expecting following the Indianapolis regionals, but it's definitely something that I think is going to just continue popping up. I think there's a world where we start seeing some more of the other Pokemon. Not so much Kyogre and Groudon, but like Lunala actually made the graphic. Maybe that leaves room for like Dawn Wings, especially in the Trick Room sphere, mainly because of the fact that you see all of these Wide Guard being problematic. Having the option for Necrozma or Lunala to hit with single target damage and like with Meteor Beam, and then be able to get that +1 under Trick Room, start doing massive damage. I definitely see there's a world where these two Pokemon have that niche on a Trick Room team that Ice Rider may be struggling into with the way the current meta is sitting. Koraidon might actually pick up a fair bit, mainly because of the fact that Zamazenta doesn't like dealing with Koraidon. So I could see a world where Koraidon actually comes in and picks up a little bit of usage, especially if you find a way to get them to pivot their Zamazenta. I mean, they're not running the Iron Defense as much anymore, so that's a really good bonus. They're not running the Iron Defense, so if you can get them to pivot that Pokemon and then have Koraidon come in after they no longer have the +1 defense, that's pretty solid. And for that reason, I think, you know, having an option to deal with the Rain Setter that is very popular, that being Pelipper right now, it's just going to help with the Weather War. So I think Koraidon could see a little spike in usage, not anything significant, but it might be an option that people start tinkering with to try and help deal with the Zamazenta. But as it sits, I feel as if the overall change from Indianapolis to Stockholm was very minimal. It just kind of shifted from hyper offense to more balance oriented teams. I did see there was a Zacian that did make the top 25, which is pretty impressive. There is a Koraidon there. So there are these other restricted Pokemon that are still doing fairly well in the scene. Groudon and Kyogre also both in the top 30. What's this go to? 32. Top 32. Which isn't like, there's a lot of options as far as the restricted Pokemons go. You just have to know which ones you are comfy with, and I think that's the big thing. Like, if you're looking at this Groudon team, this is a Sword and Shield looking team. It looks so similar to the Groudon sauce that we were running in Sword and Shield. So kind of taking those elements from the past and applying them to now is still working in some regard to a lot of these teams. So I find that very interesting as well, and seeing if maybe more ideas from previous generations, previous formats, start sprinkling their way in and allowing some of these older Pokemon like Groudon to kind of shine. So keen to see how the format continues to develop. We got LA coming up, I believe, next week. I don't remember the exact date. Might be 2 weeks out. Don't recall. But yeah, so we've got a lot of this format left to develop. This is the world format, so we're just going to keep following this for time. But that is it for this one, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Zamazenta in the comments below. But until next time, peace.